What's up, everybody? So today I'm going to show you 5 essential licks for playing fast. And these are going to be important even if you don't care about playing fast. These are just going to be great licks that will teach you a lot about playing jazz guitar. So let's dive in. Now, if you haven't seen, I recently did a massive jazz guitar collab with some of the best guitarists in the world over rhythm changes. And so what I did is I asked Levi Clay to transcribe 5 solos from that. It turned out to be around 70 something pages of transcriptions. From that, I'm distilling 5 essential licks that will teach you how to play fast. There's also going to be a companion video, which is going to be 5 more of these licks for members of YouTube and also Chase's Guitar Academy. You can sign up, again, links in the description, or just hit join below. The full transcriptions for these players will also be available at Chase's Guitar Academy if you're interested. So the very first lick we're gonna look at here, first concept, is triads. And this one comes from Will Brahm. Let's take a listen. All right, so from this lick, what can we learn? Well, a couple really important concepts. The first one is just simplifying the changes. So when we have a lot of complicated changes, like a fast rhythm changes, it's super important to simplify them. I actually did a whole lesson on this, again, in Chase's Guitar Academy, that members will receive this week. When we do that, we want to have a broad overview of how we're simplifying. In this case, you can simplify the 1, 6, 2, 5 to just 1 for B flat and then 5 for F7. And you can simplify that even more as just thinking diatonic to the key of B flat. And that's what we're really seeing here, where we're just playing around with notes from the B flat triad. And then just coming up with nice melodies. Changing it, give it some repetition, but also some variety. So we repeat that to a different ending note, makes it interesting to our ear. And then also changing the idea to adjust when we get to the E flat, A flat 7 part. So those are all really cool concepts for using triads in your soloing, and helps you keep things more melodic and cross bar lines instead of always playing very fast lines. The second important lick here is arpeggios. Let's take a listen now to Hristo Vichev making use of this. Now this one piggybacks onto what we were talking about with triads. Arpeggios, normally we're thinking of 4 or more notes in a sequence, stacking the chord in thirds. And again, we see the idea that we simplify the rhythm changes to just the key of B flat and use one chord for that over this. And so we can do that with a B flat arpeggio, B flat major 7 in this case, and then ending with a B flat major triad. So let's see what that actually entails. One thing that's really great about arpeggios on guitar is that in general, they're very easy to play fast. And part of that reason is because we can keep a consistent downward pick, sweep pick, as we go through this. So we can do down, down, we could hammer on here to that F, or do an up pick, down, down, up, or down, down, hammer on, down, slide, down, down, up. So we get a very smooth, relatively easy way of playing fast ideas. Again, in order for this to work, we're not thinking of notes for B flat, G7, C minor, and F7. Just sticking to the B flat tonality will work throughout that 2-measure progression. If you want to get another great arpeggio idea, make sure you check out 5 more essential licks for playing fast, either as a YouTube member or member of CGA. The third lick concept here comes from Barry Green, and this is one that he does expertly and that all of the players are doing, and that is enclosures. Let's listen to how Barry uses enclosures on this example. He starts off right from the beginning using enclosures. And what's great about this is it really lets us address our picking, and that is very essential if you want to be able to play fast, or even just accurately and technically well, to have a clarity in your ideas. Let's see what he's doing here though, because there's a lot of chromaticism, a lot of notes that seem like they don't work if we don't analyze it in the right way. And you want to have kind of a big picture on this. Let's start off right on the downbeat of the first measure with that B flat. where we start on this E natural until we hit the F when it hits to G7. Now that is all an enclosure to get us to the target note of F, which is the flat 7 on G7. So it doesn't really matter that we're playing E natural over the B flat or some of these notes like G flat, because our ear resolves that tension once we finally hit F, which fits on the chord G7. And picking wise, what you want to deal with is, for most enclosures, you want to keep them all on one string. This is really important so that you can make sure your picking is done correctly. The way I like to do the picking is, in this case, we would start this enclosure with an up pick so that we end with an up pick. I have more on picking in a bunch of my other videos. I'll link one of them right here. My most popular one is I couldn't play fast until I learned this, and that's really a good introduction to this topic. Now, what's cool about the thing that Barry's doing here is that he's linking a bunch of enclosures together. So let's see what I'm talking about. After we did that enclosure to F, we're going to target another chord tone of G7, which is the D. So again, all on the same string now of the third string. So the E flat, C, C sharp, D. And it's fine that we're on C minor at this point because the note D will still work on C minor as like the ninth. But just focusing on enclosing notes within B flat, like B flat, D, and F, enclosing any of those three notes will be really effective throughout this progression, no matter what chord you're on, B flat, G7, C minor, or F7. Then we would have down, up, down, up. From there, we continue. We get another enclosure to B flat. So the three enclosures that we're dealing with, each on their own string here, are basically targeting this B flat triad. B flat, F, and D. Let's go through those real quick. The first one, if we were going to target B flat, if we're going to target F, same exact pattern, right? And then if we're targeting D, so that is how we can target each of those notes within B flats. Very, very effective for having some chromaticism in your lines for rhythm changes. The fourth lick here is chromatic descent, and this one comes from Cecil Alexander. Killed it on this solo. Let's take a listen to this portion where he uses this concept. So when I say chromatic descent, I'm talking about a very specific pattern. And it's this one where we descend chromatically from the root of the chord. So if we're on F minor 7, we would go F, E, E flat. From there, we can do a lot of things, but I'm just talking about that portion. In this case, what Cecil does is, again, uses an enclosure to target the D, the third of B flat 7. Like that. But the important part is that first initial descent. One thing we usually see with chromatic descent are two possible options. So the first one is descending from that root and going back to the root. So it's a 4-note pattern. In this case, F, E, E flat, possibly going back to F. That is what I call chromatic descent number 1. And the second one is going up to the 9th. So you have F, E, E flat, and then G. That one's really good because it sets yourself up to hit F again as another chord tone. Right? It's a way of getting movement without actually moving anywhere. And it can be really effective if you are playing something fast and want to create a feeling of movement with eighth note lines, but don't necessarily want to be going up and down the whole fretboard. Again, chromatic descent number 1 and number 2. I go into these more in my Essential Jazz vocab course, which you can check out, link in the description. There's also one other really interesting way that Cecil uses this chromatic descent, which I'll go into in my companion video. And then lastly, the very final thing that I think will really help you play fast is having some classic blues licks. And one of the reasons that this helps is because pentatonic scales, which are usually used for blues licks, tend to just be 2 notes per string. Makes the picking very easy with a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Very consistent picking means that in general, it's easier to play those lines fast. So let's look at this one from Dan Wilson. A couple things to point out here. He's basing this around a B flat pentatonic, but he's mixing B flat minor pentatonic and B flat major pentatonic. And we see that because he plays the G natural instead of A flat there. And then we get this very classic blues lick that many of the other guitarists did in their solos, which is walking up from this sharp 9 up to the 5th. So if you're having trouble getting this part of the picking down, I recommend just focusing on this G string part, and you can use that as its own lick. And the picking is just going to start with the down and just alternate down, up, down, up. So down, up, down, up, down, up. We start off with a little bit of a two-note enclosure to the 3rd of B flat, but that on its own as a blues lick works in a lot of different patterns, a lot of different places. Make sure you're incorporating some blues licks, some blues ideas, no matter what standard you're playing over, but especially on a rhythm changes form. All right, that's it for this lesson. If you guys want to check out either my video on how to play fast, if you haven't seen that before, or also the rhythm changes collab I did with some of these great guitarists, you can check those out here. And if you want to watch the second video for this, you can sign up as a YouTube member or as a member of Chase's Guitar Academy, where you can get access to that video as well as tons of other courses, hundreds of hours of lessons, exclusive access to me as a teacher for you, and get feedback on your videos, a whole bunch of stuff. You can get more information below. Thanks, guys.